Finding midpoints. So what we want to do here is find the point that is exactly halfway between our two given points. Now that means, if we consider this right-angled triangle, that the x-coordinate here is exactly halfway between x1 and x2, and the y-coordinate here is exactly halfway between y1 and y2. Now, how could we go about finding something, say, halfway between 10 and 16? Well, you should be able to spot that's 13, but if you didn't know, the calculation you could do is to add them together and divide by 2. In other words, find the mean of 10 and 16, and that's 26 divided by 2, which is 13. So we're going to do the same thing here. The midpoint we want is going to be the mean of the two x-coordinates, so x1 plus x2, add them together and divide by 2. So that will give us the x-coordinate just here, halfway between x1 and x2. And then do the same, find the mean of the y-coordinates, and that gives us the y-coordinate here, halfway between y1 and y2. So we want to find the midpoint of the line joining the pairs of points. So if we call this one x1 and y1, and this one x2 and y2, then we know the midpoint is x1 plus x2 divided by 2, and y1 plus y2 divided by 2. So that's going to be -1 plus 5 divided by 2, and 3 plus 4 divided by 2. -1 add 5 is 4, 4 divided by 2 is 2, and then this one is 7 over 2, or 3.5, but it's usual to leave these things as fractions. Here we have x1 and y1, and x2 and y2, and again our midpoint is this same formula. So we'll do -2 add, -12 add -2, divide that by 2, and then we'll have 3 add 8, and we'll divide that by 2. So that's -14 divided by 2, which is -7, and 11 over 2. One -2 is the midpoint of two -8 and another point. Find the other point. So the situation here is that we have two -8 given to us as an end point. Then we've got a line going to a point that we don't know, and for now I'm going to call that point AB. And then we're told the midpoint of that is 1, -2. Now there's a couple of different ways of us finding out what AB is, and I'm going to go through both. So one of them is to use the formula. We know the midpoint is x1 plus x2 over 2, and y1 plus y2 over 2. So if we do x1 plus x2 over 2, so we're using the x-coordinates of the endpoints, that's telling me that 2 plus a over 2, and for the y's we've got -8 plus b over 2. But we know that that's going to be equal to 1, -2. In other words, 2 plus a over 2 is equal to 1, and negative 8 plus b over 2 is equal to negative 2. So we just need to solve these equations. Multiplying both sides by 2 gives me 2 plus a is equal to 2, and that must give me that a is equal to 0. And then over here, multiplying both sides by 2, negative 8 plus b is negative 4. Add 8 to both sides, b is equal to 4. So that tells me that the point is 0, 4. Now, another way I could have done this is that going across here from an x-coordinate of 2 to an x-coordinate of 1 means I go across by 1. Negative 8 to negative 2 means I've gone up by 6. So if that's the midpoint, then what I need to do to get from there to the end is go across another 1 and up another 6. So 1 to the left from 1 gives us 0, and 6 up from negative 2 gives us 4. So you can do it this way as well. So we have 1.5, negative 4.5 is the midpoint of these 2 points. Find a and b. So let's call this one x1, y1, and this one x2, y2. And then we know that the midpoint is x1 plus x2 over 2 and y1 plus y2 over 2. That 2 doesn't look very good. I'm just going to smarten that up. There we go. So x1 is a, and then x2 is negative 5, and then this one here, y1 is negative 2, and then we've got y2 is b, and we know that that's going to be 1.5, which is 3 over 2, and negative 4.5, which is negative 9 over 2. Now note these are all over 2, so I get that a take away 5 is equal to 3 by comparing this with this, and then comparing the y-coordinates, negative 2 add b is equal to negative 9. Add 5 to both sides here gives me a is equal to 8, and add 2 to both sides here gives me b is negative 7.